the Zion Peace Plan, FBAs, your ABCs, and reincarnation as animals and substructure. In order to look at why behaviors occur, teachers, psychologists have to do a functional behavioral assessment, and they look at what are the ABCs going into a functional behavioral assessment? Why is behavior occurring this way, and what are the consequences? Unfortunately, you have a system, a religious system, that's driven by men that has allowed it to be bullies. When dealing with functional behavioral assessment, from this point on, Jesus has made it clear that you are going to be dealing with lower life. And that's part of the reason why Daniel says, during the period of time, Daniel 12, when the she over life shows up, and Gabriel and she over life, and the daughter of Zion over life, when she shows up, it's going to be a time of tumultuousness, never before having been seen. So the reason why we're looking at going back down into an animal existence is because we're beneath the animals. Now, let's just stop here for a moment, because I have a lot of people that are engaging in reaction formation. And we have to realize that the people that are most culpable are your academics and your academics, your scribes, your religious leaders, your doctors, those people who know what they're doing, and they know that they're doing it wrong deliberately. But that's not most of the population. So let's go in, and you're going to say, how is this a possibility? Well, it's right there in the documents, but it's also there because when we look at the Noahide, and when we look at the flood story, it tells us that we fell apart because the sons of the fallen angels were doing wicked things with the animals, genetically with the animals and other beings. And you are back at that point, and you're beyond it. 2, it makes it clear in Isaiah, Daniel, Micah, as well as Revelations and a few other places, that when you get to a point where you're in the clouds, you're stealing people's lives, when you are turning day into night, men into women, women into men, and so on and so forth, when there are certain things, when the dragon comes back, and now we have the dragon up in the atmosphere, and nobody is kind of protecting you but me, because the clergy didn't do anything, then on top of everything else that's going on, when they are ready to destroy the earth, and they're not willing to be honest to the common people because the infrastructure, they don't have a handle on it, that's when the consequences need to become dire in order to pull everyone around. And so in my case is not just looking at the power elite. My case is also looking at the common people, because what my education case and what my life case looks at are how the common people enable the power elite to behave the way that they do, and that they are culpable on many of the same levels. And that, by dropping everyone's hand, will allow us to move forward. So why would somebody say, okay, why not Hinduism? Why not Islam? Why not this? What's wrong with the consequences? Well, let's take a look at Christianity. You cannot engage in one fundamental lies from the very beginning, which is a blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. What is a sin? What isn't a sin? What is creation? They blasphemed. So the structure from that point on is warped. It's perverted. Knowing to put your clothes on and going out and having farming is what the intention always was. And it's shown in the Göbekli Tepe, as well as the oldest quote-unquote agricultural station that was found along the banks of Galilee in 2000. It was reported in 2015, and it's 23,000 years old. So when we begin to look at these things, going out and having to work at these things was God's plan. Christianity, Athens, the dragon people, Rome. Okay, they're the problem. That's what warped the entire system. Judaism has its own problems. Judaism wasn't even planning on a heaven. When you look at some of the earliest works, there's not a discussion of heaven, of you going to heaven, of there being an afterlife, about heaven. If we look at Hinduism, Buddhism, those that have reincarnation, we have a karmic hiccup. It's like you don't really have to get it right. You can kind of wait, and you may do it this way and you may do it that way, but as long as you continue to think along those terms, you think you're going to be able to come back. But the fact of the matter is you are destroying the earth, you're aborting girls, all these things are going on, and no, you may not continue with that karmic hiccup, because now your own people are holding things back. And now there has to be some more dire consequences. So why the animal kingdom? Well, I already mentioned with the Noahide, if you abused animals again like that and the earth like that, the kid gloves were off with humanity. There you go. 2, because, and Amos says it in Amos 8, you know, it doesn't matter if you hide and you dig down beneath Sheol and you're hiding down there. We have very wealthy people that are hiding beneath Sheol. Okay, they are down there with their condominiums, and they're all set for Elon Musk and others to have all of their tens of thousands of satellites hovering above the earth, which will destroy the entire musica and electromagnetic system of the earth. But then they will lash it out on the rest of the population while they're down there hiding out. Or, as Amos says, they may be up in the heavens. They can climb up into the heavens. They may be hiding above this. They may be hiding on different places on the moon. They may be hiding all over the place, and it's coming soon because Elon Musk is doing it with the dragon, which is the most wicked creature in the Bible. All right? And the dragon goes back to the Dacians and the Thracians and what they did in the Middle East as the Sea People, what they did with the Minoans, what they did in Turkey. They're bad, bad, bad to the bone. And unfortunately, the Celts are part of the bad to the bone too. There you go. So if they're out there doing this, and the whole thing about the virus, they are masking what's really happening while they're running around talking about the virus and Black Lives Matter. The people in charge of Black Lives Matter are not warning you about what they're doing with the satellites, what's going to happen to you. And Elon Musk's girlfriend, Grimes, has already said the sound that's going to hit you is going to go right, you won't even know it. It's just going to destroy you. They plan on destroying you. So let me just read this to you. And I have a problem with a lot of some of the Old Testament, because you can tell that it's definitely Phoenician and things have been added to it. And remember, I like to work with scripture for all, because I can pick apart wrong translations, or I can, you know, when they didn't translate it by the word, I can catch the linguistical patterns that are falling across. But this is more difficult. Having said that, with Amos, let me read this, because Amos also talks about what is wrong with the priest, and he's telling the priest in 7 that they are terrible. The priests are terrible. And in Amos 8, he's saying that, look, the end has come upon my people Israel, and I will never again pass by them, and the dead count will be many. Okay, it's going to be many. Hear this, that you trample upon the needy and bring to ruin the poor of the land, saying, when will the new moon be over, so that we may sell grain and the Sabbath, so that we may offer wheat for sale? We will make the epoch small and the shekel great, and practice deceit with false balances, buying the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and selling the sweepings of the wheat. And he says, and the Lord has sworn by the pride of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their deeds. And it goes on to talk about that. Now, when we talk about the epoch, we're really talking about the grain measurement of hepa, chabat. That was the grain measurement. And it was when the Phoenicians came down, and the Phoenicians were amalgamation of the Amorites in that area, and the sea people that came in, the Dacians, the Thracians, and some of the Celts attacked, and they were an amalgamation of that. When that shekel came in, when Phoenicia took over the area which was Israel and Judah, and you can read about it in Psalm 80, middleman greed took over. The warring areas that were between east and west, Israel was the middleman, and that's how they made their money. All right? The middleman criteria should sound, do I have a deal for you? The manipulation of the markets. Isaiah 14, they will make you their slaves. These are not the original Semitic people that were in the area. These are people affected by the Moabites, the Cushites, the Amorites, the Ishmaelites, the Hagarites, and they are with the red dragon and the dragon people. They are infected with all of that, and part of my job is to tease this out. Let's go in and see what's going to happen with this fallenness, and then we're going to talk about where it stands in the Lost Book of Nostradamus and how this shows up. I saw the Lord standing beside the altar, and he said, strike the capitals until the thresholds shake, all capitals, and shatter them in the heads of all the people. Ooh. And those who are left I will kill with the sword. Not one of them shall flee away, and not one of them shall escape. Listen to what happens. Though they dig into Sheol, from there shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, from there I will bring them down. Though they hide themselves on the top of Carmel, from there I will search out and take them. And though they hide from my sight at the bottom of the sea, there I will command the sea serpent, and it shall bite them. And though they go into captivity in front of their enemies, right in front of us, they go into captivity. You hide yourselves out. That's what the wealthy are planning on doing. And they're not telling you anything because they've caused this circus to go around you. And the African elite and the Islamic elite, all of them are talking about the circus, and they're even talking about the vaccine, but they're not talking about where they're actually going to hide them, and how some of their pictures taken for them are actually screens in the back, how many of them are already sitting in captivity. And though they go into captivity in front of their enemies, I will command the sword, and it shall kill them. And I will fix my eyes on them for harm and not for good. And this is discussed in Isaiah. The whole discussion of what's going on between Isaiah 50 and Isaiah 60 is rampant with what's happening now. Micah 3, 4, 5. You've got it. And it's a retelling of the entire story, because the story was based on the wicked mindset of men, of the yes, we can. I have a problem with chapter 9 after this, the restoration of David's kingdom. I have a problem with this. David must have been somebody that they're not telling us about, because David also means beloved uncle who marries his niece. But all of a sudden there's an issue of wine here. There's a lot of planting of wine and a lot of drunkenness. That sounds like the Red Dragon people. It sounds like the Greeks and the Red Dragon people. It does not sound like the original people from that area. Not at all. And we see that in Lot too. I mean, as if the angels picked him up, moved him over when Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, and he brought enough wine to get drunk on a regular basis so that his daughters could seduce him. No, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. All right? Made up. That's not taking responsibility for raping other people. All right, let's come out of here and look at this. So, let's come into this. We're going to look at Lost Book of Nostradamus. Remember, this is the Nazareth. Jesus, the Nazareth. We are shooting out Pisces. This is Jupiter in Leo 2015. Elon Musk. Here we have his dragon, went up under flames, black stars for communication for the satellites, 9 black stars for his Merlin thrusters. In Cancer, the 5 eyes, black stars are the 5 eyes that are sitting above him. Now, let's go in and take a look at the Lobster. I'm going to put you on pause. When I got the information of the Lobster in the Lost Book of Nostradamus, and I found the Zion point, it was January the 21st of this past year, and I had already reported all kinds of, I had been reporting nonstop. They saw all the other miracles, how they got clobbered. They saw all of the many things, and still they were going full speed ahead to destroy you. Congress gave Elon Musk the right to send up tens of thousands. By December, it was what, 12,000 of these satellites that were going to be sent up to destroy you. We had Fiona Hill, who shows up in Congress, a picture taken with his erection. We have a president who has Fiona Hill, who is a transgender, who shows up against the Russians with his erection, and this is supposed to be a conservative president. Our conservative president has major advisors that are homosexual. Nothing about President Trump, about his behavior, is actually conservative. It's actually, it isn't. None of the Jewish people around him, not Mr. Trump, not Congress, nobody. There's only one thing that they're all involved in, and that is destroying the masses, and making sure that the age of men stays in place. So when we say locust, lobster, that is a variation of locust. And when we say locust, that is part of Apollo. Apollo goes with the locust. He brings pestilence. He uses theater. He uses drama. He uses cheap laws. He uses cheap entertainment, and he drags you down. And when that doesn't work, he brings pestilence. He brings mice. He brings the bubonic plague. He brings whatever it is. And the Apolli are up in the area of Dacia. And then when they invade as the sea people, they go down, and we see them then in the area of Babylon from about 1100 BC on. And they go right into Babylonia after that. So, let's put us on pause. Now, it took me a while to find what the locust meant here. This was my case. It did begin when Jupiter was in Taurus in this area. You can see we're taking on the naked Adam and Eve story. We have the wicked Apollo and all of his manifestations that are here. I'm tearing it up. It takes you through Jupiter and Libra. It actually picks it up down here. They show this first, but this is where it begins. And this is Jupiter and Scorpio. This is 2018, when Meghan Markle got married. I already have this online. It took me, I always thought, it looks like, when I saw this and I found it, I thought, okay, that's her statute of limitations. She has to be done then. This is about when her birthday is, by the way. So this is when it first begins, and this is when the tree of life begins to be here, and that's about the time her marriage occurs. And all perversion hangs out, because they go after everything that has to do with Artemis, with holiness, with the holiness of Sagittarius. They go after everything in order to begin destroying it. And a lot of it is tied up with the occult and the LGBTQ. Notice up here, again, it looks like that kind of pistol. It looks like a crazy looking, okay? And here, this this does not look like a scorpion. This really kind of looks like a kind of lobster. And I thought, okay, that's the yin yang. This is Cancer. I didn't know what this was. I knew that those were my configurations. 2 master 11s and a 2. A daughter, a son, that's July the 11th. Daughter, July the 22nd. A mother, July the 10th. And I've got the master 12/12 for December. So I knew that was me. I knew that that was me. I mean, I know what I'm going through. I know, and they've gotten rid of this. The normal woman is here, and your Marthas and your Queen Bees are not going to be good enough in the future. I already knew all these things. I knew this. There's the Sagittarian. You're looking for the young woman. You need to be looking for the older woman. I knew all of this. But what I didn't do is put these two together. And I knew that as of last year, when the LGBTQ, when gay men and transgender men went after me with impunity, from January of last year, and I have the evidence online. I mean, writing, hacking, this has been going on. And it went through until mid-June of 2019, when they said, I met the people that I tutor for, and they said, oh, a man next door pulled me in. His name was Sam. He said his partner that he was interested in, his name was Adam, pulled up a shirt, showed me his spots all over his neck. I thought, oh boy, what are we looking at? Because he told me he was a homosexual around my age, and then told me that at the end he's been told that they're all going to rise up to the top with their holy sparks. And I thought, wow. I was stalked in the hospital when I went for my father. I have this. Online, I have, it's been nonstop. So, with that in mind, I said to them, all right then, you're not going to come back as another human being, and you're not going up to heaven, because as I made clear early on, we're going to protect heaven. And you're below the animals, so you will come back as an animal. Within 4 weeks, Epstein was picked up, and there was then a shattering that occurred with some of the cabals. The LGBTQ, it began to shatter. So let's go in and take a look here. It's at this time, and it should say the 21st of January. There it is, 21st of January, that I was watching the movie The Prophet, where all of this clicked. So let's open this up, and you can see where we're going to find this. I am watching, what? The Prophet on Pluto. And I had to go back and take pictures. Strength of God, lower arch, Gabriel. Notice there's the 3. See, there it is. There, and that's when, oh, and Hebrew, Horan, for for the Horians. Okay, so when I saw that, that's when this all clicked. Oh, oops, we're always writing this, right? Okay, I have to always write this. That's when this clicked. So let's go find this. Oh, look, that picture, there's the moon, the yin yang, the 69. And by the way, my number at Palm Beach County, when all of this began to unfold, was 69. And my number at St. Paul's was 69. All right? And Nostradamus is telling us that it's going to be this lobster now. And what is this? It's kind of the yin-yang, and there's part of the moon, and here's all the moons with my configuration. And here it's broken about the time she does this. Now that's 2018. So what I then found within the last 6 weeks, and then I had to remember it, is this is the primal chart for the lobster. And if we go in and we look it up, let's go to 2018. Actually, if we look at my birthday, I'm 1958, I'm the golden retriever. Remember, Cancer has been important to me. That was Cancer that year, the pit bull. In 2019, it's the lobster. And if we go, and the lobster occurs in several different, it occurs every 12 years after that. And then if we come to 2018, again, it's the year of the golden retriever. That's, where I am right there. And it was also the year of the dog. But, so I should have been very successful that year. But the next year, which is 2019, we're back at the lobster. What Nostradamus is telling you, and what he's telling you Jesus is doing, because that's the hand of God, is that from this point on, you can now be reincarnated as an animal. You can be reincarnated as somebody of the opposite sex. You may be reincarnated as the lowest of life. If you don't know what a man and woman is, we'll make you a worm. You can be reincarnated as a female that's being aborted. If you're a man who promoted pornography and abortion and discriminated against women and lied about scripture, you can come back and continue to be aborted, like what's happening with Hugh Hefner. So this is what we're looking at here. Great. I wasn't kidding. And that is when this, they had already seen that when I went to New Zealand and was in arrears, how I followed everything God told me to do. This was in 2010. They had already seen that 5 days after I went to New Zealand got hit with a series of 4 earthquakes. 4 large clusters of earthquakes over 4 4-month periods, and it was a 4 event happening on the 4th and then on the 13th and on the 22nd, and they could see that. They saw what happened when they sent Miles Markle out to begin harassing me about Meghan Markle in 2017 after I reached out to the Russians and I started protesting about what was happening with the Canadians, the Russians, the Canadians, the British, the takeover of North America. And I started protesting this and what the marriage of Meghan Markle would mean. That was on August the 21st, 2017. 5 days later, you begin getting hit with a series of hurricanes that all spell out who I am and what's happening, the major names, 4 of them, that begin wiping out what's happening in the Caribbean. Pardon me. And those hurricanes continue until 5 days after you get your last hurricane, 5 days after Miles Markle stops calling me, stops texting me, and that's on the 3rd of October 2017, and you get hit with your last hurricane. When the false teachings of the Adam and Eve story happened in St. Paul's Episcopal Church, I went right down for that one. I mean, I went right down at the altar. It's like my heart stopped. It was a premonition. This is in October the 6th, 2019. That was a premonition of what was going to happen with the planes coming down, what was happening with the attacks on the Tree of Life, because that's what I'm there to work with. 3 days after I went down from that hospital, in the hospital, you got hit with a massive hurricane, Michael, who landed on Mexico Beach, pointing that, I said, Mexico Beach, where's it going to go after that? Well, the next major hurricane happened by the Three Mary Islands of Mexico. You have had one hurricane after another hurricane. You've had one fire after another fire. You've had earthquakes that are all patterning me reaching out, trying to do the right thing and working for God, and it's happening all the time. Now, what happened with the Boeing 737 is when I saw that this happened on October the 20th, when I got that SOS that said they needed the Russian deal, and it came right up online. Here I am reporting, and it's showing right up as I'm reporting it online. That is when the pipe bombs went out. As soon as that went out, I said, that's not right. That cannot possibly be right. That feels like the Democrats. That feels like somebody else. I looked at the picture. I thought, oh my goodness, that looks like a gay man. He doesn't look right. Sure enough, he was a male stripper. I mean, to make a long story short, I contacted both the Democrats. I contacted the Republican office down here. I told them about it. Right after I spoke with the Democrats in Broward County, and I have everything on my phone log, within 2 days, the Tree of Life is hit. As soon as the Tree of Life was hit, I said, Lord, you've got to hit them, you have to expose them, and you have to hit them hard. Within 24 hours, the 737 goes down. That is the 737 MAX. The sun for Indonesia, the Lion. And it let me know, and it came right to me, that it was Barack Obama and his relationship with Indonesia and Kenya, that he was not actually a U.S. citizen because of his adoption in Indonesia. Wow. And then when I was explaining to, I think Alan was a transgender man, and I have him online as he's taking my email and my text messages, and you can see him saying, I didn't know I could do it all in one swipe. It's right on my phone, and it's online. The night within hours, it was then 6 hours, when I explained to him how I told them to hit them and hit them hard and expose them. Within 6 hours later, well, no, more like within 8 hours, the next 737 goes down, and it points out the relationship between Kenya and Ethiopia. That is again Barack Obama and the Lion of Judah movement. And then when Florida could not taxi the plane off the runway properly, and this was by Orlando, that looked after the assassination. That was actually a setup that the LGBTQ and the Muslim Brothers and a few others agreed to in order to take dispersion away from it. Just like Manchester was set up by Barack Obama for the African American movements. You got a lot going on here, folks. And the only way it's going to stop, and the only way we're going to stop this total destruction that's going to be looking at you, is by saying, look, we're going to get you regardless of where you are. And you're going to be a really low life, and you're saying, this is horrible. But I'm telling you, putting those parameters around your behavior so that you understand what the consequence is actually protects you. It's the greatest protection we can offer. Okay, thank you. I have to add something. God bless. There's a whole lot behind this, and they know about it. So I have to write to these people and begin the process of what I said I was going to do beforehand. We're going to call it not the Union of North America or the Commonwealth of North America. We're going to call it the Confederation, because we're not merging with Mexico, but we're setting up a confederation state of support. Bye. Bringing Australia over, New Zealand over, who will come, merging with the British, because they're a pain in the neck if we don't, and because of who I represent for them. And if I represent that person, I can do this for them. All right. I've got to go. I've got so much to do. I apologize many times over. I do.